has this many tones and frequencies in it?
Well, there certainly aren't any synthesizers that have oscillators that are that many and that random, tuned to that many random things, all changing simultaneously. That's not something inherent in any of the synthesizers that are used for, recording or creating sound. This is something that has a tremendous amount of oscillation at different frequencies.
So you're saying that it would be very difficult to produce this electronically?
Yes.
Would it be possible, though?
Anything's possible, but
in this variety?
you have to consider your source. To create this on a Philips tape deck, if the Philips cassette came from the source that it supposedly came from, I don't see how the man could do it.
Okay, now you're running a comparison here of the sounds we're listening to, and there's the white noise down at the bottom.
Right.
So what's the similarities between the two? And what are the really defined differences?
Okay, well, white noise is electronic unwanted signal in any electronic system, and you see that on the bottom here, footprints, and you can...
Mirage fighter that came in. And, of course, you've seen the photo.
Right, there we were. It's fascinating stuff, Lee.
You've heard the second part of that, the Variation 2 sounds, where the dog is barking.
Yes.
And the Mirage fighter.
Yes.
Okay.
So we get all of those other little sounds that the scope is telling everybody about. A Mirage fighter comes over, the dogs bark, and the spaceship is there. I mean, Billy must have a secret studio somewhere that defies conventional wisdom and science in order to produce those sounds on his little Philips tape recorder. We will play a little bit later the sounds of his first recording. That was a Variation 2?
Yes,
That was a Variation 6 craft. The Pleiadians are always changing models on us, quite like they've got a connection with General Motors.
One of the things that's fascinating, too, is by the time we got in, one of the problems with this case that I will always regret is the fact that we came in 2 years, almost 3 years too late after it had started. And there were only 4 photographs left of the Variation 1 type craft. And we managed to salvage, I think we have the 4. But we've never released them. One of these days we will. And then you'll have all 6 craft, and you'll see a remarkable difference.
Yeah, the latest craft is a weird-looking thing with great big balls all along the outside of it.
Right.
But its capabilities are evidently enormous in that it can travel the distance from here to Pleiades, which is, 500 light years or so, thereabouts, in a matter of a few minutes.
I think it's 7 minutes, 7.5 minutes.
And it used to take them an awful long time to make the trip, 7.5 hours.
Right.
So there's obviously no CHP up there with the speed limit. I'm talking to Lee Elders. I'll be right back. And we'll do 2, by the way, Lee, at Alexandria 2 bookstore. She just called in. They have 4, I believe it is. So you better hurry. And they also are renting the beam tape. Or the beam ship tape, the footage, the Japanese footage there for you that you have an opportunity you can get yourself for your collection. And this is not one of those kind of tapes, I think, that, well, if you rent it once, that'll be great because then you'll want to buy one and keep it in a very, very special place, or it may leave the door because it's quite unusual footage. All right, Milton.
Hi, Bill. Hi, Lee.
Hi.
And I've been listening to the sound of the spacecraft on your tape, and I think I have an explanation for you on it.
We'd love to hear it.
About 4 months ago, I was at the Bodhi Tree bookstore, and I found a book called The Janos People, Janos.
Mm-hmm.
And in this book is all about an English family that was taken aboard a spacecraft. Well, fortunately, the husband of this family was an engineer. And the whole family was taken on a cook's tour of the spacecraft. And especially the husband, John, was taken into the power section of the spacecraft. Now, this UFO was about 350 feet in diameter. And down in the power section, John, the husband, was shown what amounted to a gigantic, huge beam. This is a metal beam that rode on a great, big, huge bearing that was in the middle of the spacecraft.
A metal beam?
A metal beam, yes. They don't say in the book exactly what the metal was.
Oh, when you say beam, you're talking about like a beam overhead, not a beam of light.
Yes,
okay,
I'm talking about a metal beam, and this beam, according to the book, was over 350 feet in length, well, about 350 feet in length. And they used the beam and made the beam spin with electric power. And when they wanted to raise the spacecraft off the ground, why, they would crank up the beam and away it would go. And, of course, the faster the beam turned, the greater the power was and the faster the spacecraft would go. And they say, and the Janos people told him that they used the beam and made it turn and spin only when they were here in the atmosphere of the Earth. When they were beyond it, they didn't need it and didn't use it. But when I can easily visualize this beam spinning at a relatively high speed, I've forgotten how fast it turned, how it would produce the wavering sound that we heard on the tape.
Very interesting. How old is this book? When was it published?
This book, let me look in the front of it. I have it here in front of me.
It's called The Janos People?
Janos, Janos. The Janos People by Frank Johnson. And the copyright, it says first published in Great Britain in 1980. And let's see, second printing is in 1981.
Well, a spinning beam always can evoke all kinds of things, like the breaking of magnetic fields and pulsing of magnetic fields, all of which can make noise.
And I'm sure that beam, when it was spinning, would make it was a straight beam. It wasn't a three-legged beam or anything like that, a rotor. Actually, they did in one place in the book call it a rotor. But it was a straight metal beam, 300 feet or so in length, that would spin, and that was what counteracted in some way, not explained, how they counteracted and the gravitational force of the Earth.
These ships are about, 21 to 33 feet across, as I recall, Lee, and they are saucer-shaped.
Right.
With some variation on the top part of it there, but basically they're saucer-shaped craft. I think it was Wendell who was telling us that analysis of these sound tapes we also had, part of that sound can be explained by two rotating, say, wheels that are 21 feet across, one rotating in one direction, one the other, counter-rotating planes.
This is about, but I can easily understand as the beam would spin, why, because of its length and, of course, because of its length, why you would get different sounds out of the various sections of it as it would spin.
Sure, that's rather perceptive, and I see exactly where you're coming from on that, Milton. That could be so.
Yes.
So maybe this helps everybody to understand where that sound comes from. Now, I have no idea if the same principle is used in all of the various UFOs, but at least it was in this particular group, and it sounds like the one that you're talking about uses the same principle.
They could be. Even though they come from very scattered points in the universe, Physics is still physics.
The basic principles apparently work no matter who uses them.
That's right. This may be one